Alright. Hey, everybody. Timbleweebs. Again. So, last time on the tutorial, we were looking at weight painting. And that is almost the last step in making a player model. So today, we are going to actually hopefully try to get the model in Garry's mod. Now, this is usually the most confusing part for me, and I usually do it so quick and unorganized that if I were to do it again that way, it would probably be very difficult for you guys to follow along. So I've actually had to mess around and actually organize myself this time, which I'm not used to. And I'm actually so unorganized that I actually wrote a list of steps for myself. So we're just going to start right here. Step 1, save the rig model file in Blender as an SMD. So we're just going to go to our Blender and delete the cube and open our Resident Evil guy. So I did not weight paint him hardly at all. So if he does get in the game, his arms are probably going to look like Laffy Taffy, and he's just going to look like a complete derp. Now, that isn't bad, because you guys probably did a way better job weight painting. I didn't want to take the time to weight paint, since this isn't even my model, and I didn't want to waste time on it, so it's going to look funny, but as long as it gets in the game, that just means that we did it right. So he's all done. And the first thing we want to do is go over here to the scene tab. It looks like a ball, a cylinder, and a little light next to it. And you want to just scroll down until you see Source Engine Export. So basically, this is how we are going to get this guy into a model file that Garry's mod can read. So right now DMX and Z is selected. We don't have to mess with X, Y, and Z. We just want to mess with SMD and DMX. DMX is usually a text file, and we don't want that. We want a model file, so we're going to choose SMD instead. And then the export path, which is where it's going to be saved, you just click this button. And let's go to desktop and accept. So that means it's going to be saved on the desktop. Now, all you want to do is hit A few times until everything is selected. Go to File, go down to Export, Source Engine, and click on vector_reference.smd. So it took about 2 seconds, and now if we X out Blender, you don't have to save anything. Go to the desktop, and here it is, our SMD right here. Alright, now that we have our SMD, what we're going to do is we are going to get it ready for compiling. So step 2, we're going to replace the Starwolf SMD with the newly rigged Resident Evil SMD in the Starwolf decompiled folder. And I'll explain why in a second here. So if you go to the Starwolf decompiled folder and go into decompiled, you see Starwolf reference_reference.smd and all these other things. Now, basically, since we used the Starwolf skeleton on this guy, this QC file, which is basically a text file that has information about the skeleton in it, we are going to just rename that and rename that to RE, and let's just rename it to vector_reference. So we don't really have to change too much in the text file, because since we use the same skeleton that Starwolf was made with, that already has all the skeleton information in it. But what we need to change is the actual model. We don't want to compile Starwolf again, so you can go ahead and delete the Starwolf reference SMD, just throw it in the recycle bin, and get your vector reference that we just saved and drop it in there. Okay, edit the QC file. So the first thing you want to do before we edit the QC file, I'm disobeying my own orders, you need to rename the physics SMD. Instead of Starwolf reference physics, we're just going to rename that to vector reference physics. So now we have the QC and the SMD and the physics SMD. You don't really have to worry too much about these. You can delete the logs file if you want to. I'm just going to keep it there. Um, you don't have to rename this folder if you don't want. It's not going to affect anything. Um, I am just going to rename it, and the logs aren't even going to do anything. So, all right. So now that we have everything renamed, we can start editing the QC file. And that's where Notepad++ comes in. So go ahead and open your Notepad++ folder. And we're just going to grab the reference QC file and drag it into the Notepad++ exe. Alright, so this looks very similar to a code editor. That's because it is. And this is some game code. And what we are going to do is we're going to edit some of this game code so that we can get it to compile, right? And so we could use it in the game. So right here, model name, star wolf reference dot model, that is basically what this is telling the computer that we want to name the SMD file that we have right here once it gets turned into a .mdl. That's what the name is going to be once it turns into an MDL. So I'm just going to change this to vector underscore PM for player model. And this right here can be any name you want, as long as it doesn't have like too much in it. Make sure it's short, because if you have like periods or anything like that, it will mess up everything. So try not to use any symbols except for underscore. And body group, this can also be named to whatever you want. I'm just going to name it to vector. And studio, this is basically saying, okay, this is basically telling the computer what file we want to turn into the model file. So we don't want to turn star wolf reference into vector PM model. We want to turn vector reference into vector PM model. So we're going to put the vector reference name in here. So we're going to write vector reference.smd. But since it is vitally important that you do not misspell anything, I recommend clicking on your file name and clicking rename and copying the name down. Just right click and copy and paste it, because if you mess up in the spelling of anything in the QC file, nothing will work. So it's very important to get that right. So there we go. You don't need to pay attention to this or these things. What we need to pay attention to right now is this. Now this is basically telling Crowbar, the compiler program, what folder to look in for the textures. And the textures are over in the GMPU extracted version of the vector ragdoll. If you go to materials, models, nick out RE_RC vector, and here are all his materials. Now, we don't really have anything to write there yet, so we're going to make something to write there. That might sound confusing, but here we go. So once all of our stuff is compiled, we are going to put it in a folder, and we're going to put that folder in our Garry's Mod add-ons folder so that it will work in game. But right now, we need to actually make that folder right now. So go ahead and make a new folder and name it whatever. I'm just going to name it Vector Playermodel. And then make a subfolder in that folder named Lua, L-U-A, all lowercase, and another folder named Models, lowercase, and another lowercase folder named Materials. Okay, so we're not going to do anything with this folder or that folder yet. We're just going to pay attention to the Materials folder that we just made. So go into the extracted version of the vector model that we extracted, or whatever folder that houses your textures for whatever model you're using. So in my case, it's GMPU, VE extracted ragdoll, materials, models, nick out RE_RC, vector, and there are all his materials. So I'm just going to copy this folder and paste it in the materials so that it's RE_RC vector, and there are all his stuff. Alright, so These are his textures. We're not going to be learning how to edit them today. I'll probably do that in a separate tutorial. So now we have something to write here. So this is asking, okay, when the folder is in the Garry's Mod add-ons folder, in what folder am I looking for that houses the texture? So we're going to tell it. It's not models brawl underscore wolf. It's materials. I forgot to make a models folder. So go into your materials folder. In the player model, go to materials, make a new folder, and rename that to models. I'll just put that in there. So it's materials, models, re underscore rc, vector, and there it is. So I'm just going to copy this little bit right here. Alright, so now we can put that the folder that the materials are in are right here. So in our folder that we just made with the empty models and Lua folder, we're telling it that it's in, that the textures are in materials, models, re underscore rc, vector. So that should work. I'm going to add another forward slash or backslash right there and ignore all this stuff. The one thing that we do want to pay attention to, though, is right here. These things. Now, basically what this is going to say is this is telling the computer that in the our decompiled folder right here, it's telling that when you die, the ragdoll sequence, to use the Starwolf reference animations ragdoll SMD for death, which we have renamed to vector reference anim. So we're going to have to copy the name of that folder and paste it right here so that it matches ours. And the ragdoll SMD is in there. Alright. Now I realize this is very difficult to follow because there are so many different tabs that are open, different folders, renaming, and overall just a lot of confusion. But if you need to just rewind and pause and I'm going kind of fast right now because I don't want to take too long with this step because it is a fairly long portion of the tutorial. I don't want to drag it out too much, but at the same time I don't want to go too fast. So in Notepad++, and right here, it says include model f underscore anim dot model. Now, we don't want that because that means female animations. And since vector is definitely not a female, we just need to erase the f and replace it with an m. The next part you want to pay attention to, if you scroll down a little bit, is the collision joints, is what you need to pay attention to now. It's still set to Starwolf, and since we have replaced it with vector, we need to go into wrong folder. We need to go in to the decompiled Starwolf that we renamed to vector and get the physics file and copy the name of it and paste it right here. So there we go. So if you deleted any bones during the process of the weight painting and rigging in Blender, you need to erase those from the QC file, otherwise it will say error, can't find bone when compiling. So basically these are the lists of different bones, and one of the bones I deleted was the forward bone. I did not delete that on camera, but I did nonetheless, so I'm just going to delete that part of the text. Make sure there's no gap in between them. And you want to do the same in this list right here. I don't think I need to delete any of these. The only thing I did delete were the fingers. So let's see if there are any finger bones in here that we can delete from. Okay, here are the fingers. So, okay, if you deleted the fingers like I did, you want to erase all of these text things that are related to fingers that say finger in it. If you kept them and weight painted them, don't even touch this. But since I deleted the fingers, I'm just going to erase all that. And same with, if you scroll down a little bit, there's some more fingers down here that we need to delete. Alright, so all the fingers are deleted from the QC file, and we can save the QC file. And now we should be ready to edit the Lua file, which I will show you how to do. We are going to go into the vector player model folder that we made with the empty models and empty Lua folder. And what we're going to do is we are going to pay attention to the Lua folder. We're going to put some code in here that's basically going to tell Garry's mod that the model that we have in the models folder is a player model and we want to be able to use it. So go ahead and open the Lua folder and make a new folder named autorun. One word, lowercase. Alright, so in autorun, right, I have a player model template code right here, and you won't have this. I'll paste it, I'll put a link to it in the description so that you can copy it and paste it in your folder. But I'm going to open it with Notepad++ and copy everything in it. And make a new text document in autorun and just name it vector PM. Right now it's a text file, it's not Lua, but we're going to change that. So first we're just going to paste in the code in Notepad, not Notepad++, mind you, just Notepad. Save this as, click Save As, and Save As Type, you want to click here and click All Files. Erase the TXT part and replace it with Lua. Alright, so now we have a Lua and a player model txt. You can erase the text file and keep the Lua. Alright, so now we're going to open the Lua in Notepad++. So this is it in Notepad++. Now you'll notice that right here it says character name. Over here it says folder name, character name, model name, and same here on the bottom. So we are going to replace these with all of our model names. So character name right here, we're just going to replace with vector. Replace this one with vector. And now this right here is a pathway to where our models will be kept. So right now, if we go into the vector player model folder and go to models, there's nothing in there. But in this Notepad++, it says there needs to be stuff in there. It says models, player, folder name, character name, and then the model name. So I am just going to make a folder and name it player, and then make another folder. And this folder can be named anything you want. I'm just going to name it TMBweeb, for short for Tibbleweebs, and a folder for the character name. So I'll just make another folder named vector player model. And the model files will be in here once we compile them, but since we haven't compiled them yet, there's no need to mess with that. So in the Notepad++, now we can erase the placeholders right here and just name them what we name them. So, okay, this folder, right after player, I named TMBweebs. Actually, just TMBweeb, and this I named vector underscore PM. And if you go back to our vector QC, you'll see that the model name, when it's going to be done compiling, is this. So I'll just copy that and paste it where the model name is right here. And same for up here. And just do the same with the top. So once you're done editing this, you want to make absolutely certain that everything in this path line is exactly the same as in your vector player model folder. So for instance, it says right here, models player tmb weeb vector player model dot model. So we need to make sure that that is exactly what it says in here, because if anything's messed up, it's just not going to work, and we'll have to compile all over again. So models, and the next folder is player. Next folder should be tmbweeb, vector underscore player model. Yep, it's all there, so that should work perfectly. So save the Lua file once you're done editing it. And now we can compile. Finally. So I realize that this is probably the most confusing segment of the entire tutorial series, and I realize that. And there's nothing really I can do to simplify it because this is a very, very difficult process, and it isn't meant for people who are extremely new to this stuff. I'm trying to make it as simple as I can, just in case somebody is pretty new, but there's only so much I can do. So yeah, it's no matter what I do, it's going to be confusing on this part, and I apologize for that, but it's really not meant for people that are extremely new to this stuff. So here is our vector player model folder with our edited Lua and all that. And here is our Starwolf decompiled folder that we replaced with vector and such. So now I'm going to go to Crowbar, crowbar.exe, and instead of decompiler, we're going to change the tab to compiler this time. And over up here, this drop-down box that says game to compile for, and you just want to set that to Half-Life 2. Since Garry's mod is on here, and Garry's mod runs on the Half-Life 2 engine, just set it to Half-Life 2. And the QC file, this is a path to the QC file that we want to compile. And right now it's set to my global agenda medic, and I do not want it set to that, so I'm just going to click browse and go to Starwolf decompiled, and here's our vector reference QC file. Click open, and you don't need to mess with any of these other checkboxes or anything, and then just click compile folder in all subfolders of QC file. Alright, so my compiling finished and without any errors, but if your compiling finishes extremely fast and there is an error, it will probably stop around like this line right here, and there is an error, you'll need to figure out what the error is. Usually the error is really clear on what's wrong. It will usually tell you that it can't find a specific file. If it says it can't find, that means you probably misspelled something in the files. Um, and if you can't figure it out, go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'll try to help you as much as I can. I can't help everyone because a lot of people comment with problems. I try to help everyone. But if it turns, I can't really help everyone if it turns into this huge troubleshooting issue. So I can only help so much. But if it finishes and there's no errors, then that means that we're almost ready to go. So you can X out Crowbar. And you're probably thinking, okay, well, I compiled it for Half-Life 2. Where the heck did the model files go? And good question. It went in the Half-Life 2 folder. So if you have Half-Life 2, which I'm assuming you do, if you don't, I don't really know how to do it without Half-Life 2, but anyway, you go to your Steam Apps Common folder and go to Half-Life 2, and click HL2. Go to Models, and these are all my global agenda model files when I was compiling those, but we don't want to pay attention to those. Right here we have our vector models. So select all the vector files, even the DirectX 80.vtx and all that. Just copy everything related to vector or the model that you're using and click copy. Go to the vector PM models, player, Timbleweeds, vector PM, and paste them in there. Alright, now this is where it gets good. We have completely finished our player model. Woohoo! But now we need to get it into Garry's mod, which isn't hard at all. This is probably the easiest part of the tutorial. You just want to get the player model folder and cut it. Go to Garry's mod folder, Garry's mod add-ons, and paste the folder in there. Alright, so now we're going to start up Garry's mod and see if it works. Alright, we are in Garry's mod and we are ready to see if our player model worked. Now, if you don't know how to switch your player model, I don't know why you're watching this tutorial series, but let's just go to player model. And there is vector. Alright, so now that you have changed your player model to vector or whatever model you used, you want to hold Q and click on camera. And left click to place a camera, and whatever button you have assigned to camera, for in my case it's numpad 0 so I can look at myself. Ta-da! Yes! Even though it's extremely derpy, and there are holes in my ankles and my hands are detached from my body, it worked. Because it's in the game. Now, if you got yours in the game, it'll probably look a lot better than mine, and the reason for that is just because I did not spend time weight painting it. So, everything worked flawlessly. Everything is working 100%. The only reason I look funny is because I did not spend time weight painting. So we did everything right, and now it's ready for use in Garry's mod. Even though we have made our player model, there's a lot of more questions that I need to answer, such as how to get other models, how to open other models with Blender, and how to get models out of games that aren't related to Garry's mod or any kind of source game. But if you got this far, I congratulate you. Thumbs up. As you can see, my thumb is up. Or if you didn't get this far, you probably got lost in my incoherent mumblings about folders and files and Notepad and all that craziness, which I don't blame you. And I am not done with the series yet, like I said. I'll be making another tutorial on how to upload this to the Steam Workshop. I won't actually be uploading it publicly because I did not make this model. If you followed along and rigged this model better than I did, do not upload it publicly, please, because this model was not made by me, nor you, and it will probably get taken down by some legal thing on the Steam Workshop, which you do not want to happen, because that will be a very bad strike on your reputation. So, anyways, good job getting this far, if you have gotten this far. I'll see you in the next video, and be sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed this tutorial, and share it with anybody that wants to know how to make a player model. And I'll see you in the next video.